the event tomorrow morning. There you go. And also this will be available on our website on demand. We do have a panel discussion with some Q&A later on, and it will be really great to hear any questions that you've got for our panelists. So please use the Q&A button for those questions, and we will make sure that we cover those for you. Over to you, Keith. You want to take yourself off mute, Keith?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. We appreciate we've got different levels of experience with intelligent automation. So after the introductions, we're going to invest about 10 minutes to ensure we all have the same basic understanding. We'll then discuss a few case studies, real-life projects, looking at the challenges, the solutions, and the benefits. And then we're going to share a few demonstrations, which we've recorded for this session to show how these technologies deliver real results. We're going to close this off with some offers and the panel discussion. Hopefully, we'll have a number of questions, and it'll be a lively discussion.
Just before we move on, we have one person saying they've got no sound. Please let me know if there's anybody else. I think it might be their settings. And also, Keith, there is a black square on the presentation. I'm not sure what that is. That's it. Perfect. Thank you very much. I haven't had any more messages from anybody else saying that they haven't got any sound. So to that person, you may want to check your settings. Thanks, Keith.
So as you've heard Karen Clark, the dulcet tones of Karen has been facilitating the discussion, and when we get to the panel discussion, she's going to facilitate the Q&A there. My name's Keith Stagner. I'll be covering the intelligent automation overview and the case studies. We've got a distinguished panel today with Chris Dudridge from Soroco and Andrew Gildenberg from Amazon Web Services. Let me keep sliding. So as a digital transformation specialist, tmpac have a long track record designing, improving, and automating customer journeys. I just wanted to touch on two of our flagship projects. One was with HSBC, Europe's largest bank by capitalization. What we did for them is we redesigned and automated their customer onboarding process, and that was for their retail products, credit cards, mortgages, and personal loans. We delivered a 42% reduction in operating cost across the 6 countries and 2 different brands, because HSBC operates a second brand in Asia Pacific. The way we went about that is we identified the savings and we built a business case and got buy-in across all the regions. We designed and implemented a single automation solution that would manage all the variants by both country level, province level, and in China, city level as well. And that was regulation and a variation in regulation, credit risk, cultural differences, et cetera. We implemented the solution, as I said, across 6 countries and 2 banking brands. And in every single country, because HSBC had grown through acquisition, we had to integrate with a different IT system. And then we wrapped that up by training HSBC staff to roll out to the other 14 countries with the intention of rolling out to their top 20. At NHSBT, we helped them build the organ donation solution. This is a national solution that supports the 7 major organ transplants across the UK. It's life critical, heavily regulated, and operates 24/7, 365 days a year. The solution decides who receives the organ from donors, and this is people that are critically ill, because obviously they'd have to be to need a new organ, and manages the offering to transplant surgeons right across the UK. So we're proud of all the work we've done for our customers and the benefits we deliver, but particularly with the NHSBT, where the benefits are measured in lives saved. We're going to touch on the NHSBT again in the following slides. Just to round out our introduction, tmpac, we're very focused and we do a few things really well. We improve customer journeys using Lean Six Sigma techniques. We automate those journeys using intelligent automation, which I'll describe in the next section. And we provide evidence that we've delivered results. Our delivery approach guarantees success and builds your internal capability. With that, what is intelligent automation? So I'm going to go through this quite quickly. I'm not going to go through all the points on the slide, but I just wanted to make the point that there are a number of tools that come under the umbrella intelligent automation. You can use them individually. You don't have to use all of them, but there's some enormous power combining these tools, and that's what we hope to get across to you today. So if we think about task mining, it identifies opportunities for improvement and helps you to build your business case to support that change across your business. When we think about chatbots, robots, and artificial intelligence, they work together to engage your customers and deliver services. This really gives you the opportunity to grow without scale, so you can increase the number of transactions you can deal with in your organization without having to hire more staff. And also that very elusive goal, very highly personalized services. So you have the opportunity to really speak to customers in a very personalized way, leveraging data across multiple of your IT systems. And then benefit dashboards, one thing that isn't talked about that much, where you actually see the evidence that the benefits that you've delivered across all of these tools is being realized in real life. Just to make the point, when you use these tools in combination, you have the ability to interact with the data that's locked up inside your existing IT system, whether it be a practice management for a law firm, a revenue and benefit system for a local council, or a order management or change request system for a large private organization. You can extend the capability of your systems. You can leverage that data. You can personalize that service without having to make any changes to your systems. So the only other point I want to make for intelligent automation was that they support your full digital transformation journey. So that's from defining your digital transformation, delivering it, and then measuring to determine whether it's success. So Chris, I'm just going to throw this to you if I can. We've been identifying opportunities to improve and to automation for years. What is it about task mining that makes it that's so powerful? It makes it easier.
Yeah, thanks ever so much, Keith. And firstly, just to apologise if there is any background noise. I unfortunately didn't spot that I wouldn't be able to teleport between my back-to-back meetings, so I'm on the move at present. So apologies for that. But Keith, great setup in terms of when we think about intelligent automation, how we approach the opportunity to get started. I think a lot of organizations, whether they're mature or whether they're just getting started with automation, they're always going to face the number one challenge, which is what to automate, what to look at in terms of where intelligent automation can be applied. And there's many ways, as you've very expertly delivered over time of working in this arena, that includes, manual process review, that includes, looking at processes with a far more curious lens using techniques like Lean Six Sigma. But actually, at a stage of maturing, the opportunity to generate pipeline and operate in a way that helps you identify where the biggest return on investment can be generated from your intelligent automation programs will make many people turn towards discovery tools. Soroco as a vendor, we've been in operation for a little over 7 years, but we spotted an opportunity in the market to essentially deliver what we believe is a best of both worlds, the hybrid process mining, the bridge between task and process mining. But essentially what our technology does is it helps COE leaders, automation leaders, and people within the business that have an agenda to change and drive change programs for the benefits of their business. And we help them get behind understanding, first of all, how work gets done within their organization. So to looking at, first of all, with task discovery, being able to very quickly use machine learning tools and machine learning opportunities with unsupervised methods to capture and understand what tasks are being performed by the end users within their organization, and really bring that back to understand which tasks within the organization are highly automatable. And we have a product promise that essentially identifies that actually we believe that within 48 hours of deploying our task discovery tools, we can get started to identify up to 15% savings through automation. But we believe it's deeper than that. So we jump deeper into allowing our product to be taught so that you can get subject matter experts to teach processes so that we can then match the taught instances to the discovered instances with our task mining tool, which will then allow organizations to very quickly understand which processes are right for transformation, but also right for transformation across a number of other different levers. And it's very true that obviously organizations may not just be using one type of automation through RPA. They may also be re-engineering their processes. They may also need to be able to identify where training might be required within their organization. So our Work Insights platform allows organizations to stretch even further into where task automation can be a big value driver. And lastly, we also bring to bear a low-code process mapping tool to help you transform the processes that have been identified as ripe for automation into the to-be state where they are ready for transformation. And lastly, as you can imagine at the bottom, why we're illustrating all of these platforms is because that data can then be integral to driving the change programs across your entire organization, including straight from task to RPA vendors, where we've invested in integrations to the likes of Automation Anywhere, UiPath, Blue Prism, and Power Automate, to name but a few. So I think without further ado, show you a little bit about what it does. And so if you just peel forward, Keith, unless there's any questions, I think we'll just play a very short video.
Sorry, Chris, that's a few slides away, so just got a couple of other topics to cover.
Got it.
When we talk about, so that's task mining. When we think about chatbots, robots, and artificial intelligence, this is where you can automate your end-to-end journey. So if you step back from the detail and you think about the layers in your enterprise architecture, you've got a customer interface, you've got tons and tons of activities that typically performed by staff, and then you got some IT systems that hold lots of data, got lots of screens used by your staff, but typically are reacting to something that your staff perform. Traditionally, things would come in through the post, or someone would walk into your office. They would speak to staff, and they would go punch things into a laptop or a PC to get jobs done. Increasingly, some of these things are being exposed as self-service via your website and other digital channels. As we look at chatbots and robots, you have the opportunity for chatbots to vastly accelerate your channel shift. These things are much, much more powerful than they were 5 or 10 years ago. The chatbots, once they can engage with your customer, understand what it is that they're looking to achieve, quite often more and more comprehensively than some of your human staff might be able to. And then they can engage either robots or humans, or a combination to deliver those services. And then artificial intelligence, when it's within a framework of focused and ethical boundary, can make those decisions that often had to be performed by humans. And then finally, if we look at the benefits dashboard, just to drill into that a little bit, we've developed a benefits dashboard. We believe it's unique to tmpac. We don't, to our knowledge, we don't know any other transformation specialist that has one. We don't understand why. But it basically what a benefits dashboard will do is across all of your intelligent automation projects, across all of your tools, it will measure every transaction that runs through that and calculate the benefits that are being derived. So if it's a cost play, then it'll be what's the current cost versus what the previous cost is. If it's a revenue play, what new revenues is being brought in, what additional cash flow, et cetera. So it summarizes the benefits of all your projects across all tools, and it supports a drill down that allows you to understand where are those benefits coming from, which process scenarios, which channels are they coming from, and where can you find additional benefits. So to touch on the benefits for intelligent automation, we generally focus on 5 broad categories. The first is improving customer service. An enormous amount you can say about customer service, but I think the thing we'd really emphasize is the point I mentioned earlier is personalization. Speaking to your customers in the language they're comfortable with, even if you don't have any staff that speak that language. Speaking in the channel that they want to speak. You know, some of your customers are going to want to use social media rather than traditional email or post. Some are going to prefer text message. Some's going to want some messages via one channel and others versus another channel. Easily supportable with no changes to your underlying systems. And using cross-system insight, understanding what orders are in flight, what complaints have they raised in your CRM system, what communication has gone out to them from your underlying IT system, combining that knowledge to give the most appropriate response to your customers. So they don't feel like every time they're speaking to your organization, they're speaking to someone new that doesn't know anything about them. Increasing revenue, profits, cash flow. There's a lot you can do around reducing cost. I think we gave an example with HSBC earlier, but really it's scalability we think is the key play here. Most organizations have growth plans. They're mostly hampered by their ability to get the staff that they need to grow their organization. You have an opportunity with these types of tools to take the low value work, take the work that doesn't require discretionary decisions away from staff, give that to the automation, free your people to add more value. They can grow with your organization. You can deal with more transactions without having to hire more staff. Under real-time service, we all know that there's a big push for self-serve. It's not only good for the organizations, it's good for the customer. You know, it's incredibly frustrating to be speaking to someone over the telephone and trying to convince them to type in what you want in or to spell your name correctly. But in addition to that, thinking about the ability to generate revenue when your office is closed, you know, rather than having a second and third shift of staff that may offer a subset of your total services, but gather the information that's needed for when your primary shift comes back in, you can automate that with intelligent automation. Or you could take it a step further and say there's certain services we'll offer completely end-to-end, and we're going to show you that in one of the demos. Increasing intelligence. Chris spoke very eloquently about the capability of Soroco, but you know, the ability to get insights into how you could streamline and automate work that your staff are doing today without it being skewed by them trying to tell you what they think you want to hear, or trying to position it in such a way in case they're afraid of the ramifications. You're actually getting data, you get it from the source, and as you would say in Lean Six Sigma, it's Jimba, you're going to where the truth is. And ensuring compliance. I've worked in lots of organizations, I'm sure other people on the call have, where there's entire teams, cottage industries of compliance running around, tracking what other people are doing, trying to generate reports, trying to unpick data that from multiple IT systems that span a single business process. When you look at most regulation, what they're asking you to do is be very clear about what you're going to do, conform with certain rules, and provide evidence that you do that. You can use automation to ensure that compliance, to prevent your people from going outside those boundaries. You can record the evidence that they have been compliant at the time that they're actually performing the work, eliminate the need for those cottage industries. So moving into the case studies of real life projects, I've selected 3 from 3 different industries. I wanted to run through these very quickly, but we're more than happy to follow up with anybody that wants more information in more detail. And I just wanted to touch again on NHS Blood and Transplant. So NHS, what drove this was there was a change in legislation that could dramatically increase the number of organ donors. The number of organ donors, each of which can give up to 7 organs. So that's 7 people's lives that could potentially be saved for each organ donor. They wanted to respond to this legislation. They didn't want to waste any organs because they're only usable for a certain number of hours after they're taken out of a donor, and they needed the system to actually be able to support that. So we mapped their existing patient pathway and identified where we could find it, where these could be improved and where they could be automated. We delivered a solution that runs 365, 24/7, making life or death decisions for people who are critically ill. Our solution matches donor organs with patients on the organ donor waiting list using some quite complex matching algorithms, DNA matches, mass matches, blood type, etc. And it offers these organs to multiple transplant surgeons because you can't afford to waste these organs. And so if you offer it to only one transplant surgeon, either you can't reach him, or he takes too long to reply, or he refuses the organ, that organ could be wasted. So it's quite a complex process where occasionally you have multiple donors pass away on the same night. That's multiple sets of 7 organs are being offered, each of which are being offered out to a minimum of 3 transplant surgeons concurrently while they're trying to find that match and make all the arrangements to get the patient into the operating theater. I should just mention it also improved clinical intelligence, the team that works to improve the transplantation processes that we follow in the UK. there's a slew of benefits there, and we've got a page full of others that they've been kind enough to share. But I think the real telling thing for me is within 6 months of the liver allocation scheme, which is the first time this liver allocation scheme had been implemented anywhere in the world, this new liver allocation scheme went live. They could track at least 4 lives that were saved from the new scheme. For a local council here in the UK, we built a direct debit solution. The council had a very clever solution already. They had an online direct debit where people go in and enter their detail. Worked very successfully. Got quite a number of people signing up. But when the system tried to match that data up with Academy, their revenue and benefit system, thousands and thousands of exceptions were thrown out. There were many reasons for this, but the most common was not being able to match names, particularly when someone has more than one name. But for example, I'm Keith Stagner. But for my sins, my mother calls me by my middle name, Keith. So sometimes systems have me as Robert, sometimes has me as Keith. So what our solution did here is we worked with the team to define the process they follow today and to unpick why do you do this, why do you do the other, turn those into business rules, and we then automated that. The first iteration that we delivered cleared about 70% of those exceptions with no human intervention. The rest were sent over to the existing team to deal with. We thought that was pretty good, but we thought we could do better. So we spent some time looking at the data that was being captured as part of the process, part of the continuous improvement data that I mentioned earlier. And we identified some more rules that could be identified and some fuzzy logic that we could put in place to increase the number of automated transactions. The second attempt, we got 83%, and the third set of enhancements, we got over 90%. The third example I wanted to share with you is in manufacturing and logistics. So we have a customer that had a challenge that they need to load parts from 4 different factories and 4 different storage units / warehouses and plan those deliveries. Over the years, as the company had grown and they'd opened more factories and they had more pieces of manufacturing kit that was producing these parts, their operating costs for the scheduling and delivery was going up. Their staff were getting frustrated. They had to work on this in the wee hours of the morning after all the work had been done, and customers were starting to complain that they weren't happy with the impact that some of these deliveries were having on their own business. So we focused on improving operational efficiencies by eliminating manual work, eliminating inefficient loading and delivery of the trucks that were being sent out. And eliminating a lot of there's a term called LTL, less than load. So partially full trucks, or worst case, when you had to send another truck out because a delivery had been missed or time scale had been missed and they had to come back on another day. We also standardized the process so that we had a baseline that we could refine and improve over time. Once this went live, we monitored and we worked closely with the customer to see how things were going, and we started seeing these customer complaints turning into accolades. The key things that the customer were really happy about is they were emailed accurate delivery schedules that they could rely on. We'd embedded sufficient contingency in their unforeseen delivery, so we could give them a pretty accurate window when the trucks would come through. And on top of that, the data was available and the insight was available to their back office operations team, who could monitor and manage those delivery schedules and advise customers in the case where things couldn't be delivered. So, Chris, I'm going to hand over to you in a second here. We wanted to share 2 quick demonstrations just so you could visualize what these tools look like and the way they work. The first one is task mining. Hopefully this sound comes across okay. Chris, is there anything you wanted to say before we kicked it off?
No, I think play it. It's fine.
Okay.
Understanding where your transformation journey should begin can be a daunting challenge. Scout's Task Discovery can help you identify 15% plus of toil reduction in 48 hours at scale for thousands of users and with zero manual intervention. Task Discovery quickly uncovers hotspots of opportunities across any of the 6 categories available. You have the power to slice and dice the granular Scout data collected from all the users by locations, teams, or roles of your team members. Or view your opportunities by the applications, documents, or emails used in your team's tasks. To begin your transformation journey, pick the hotspot with the highest toil in its category and dive deeper to understand your team's work patterns in more detail. You can visualize the most common activities in this hotspot and reorganize them into topics that makes intuitive sense for your business users. The individual tasks within a hotspot provide key metrics like toil or average handling time. This will also help you understand which of your team's tasks are repetitive. If you recognize a set of these tasks to be a part of your process, you can select and export them into Process Discovery to construct a process. Additionally, you can export them directly into Scout Studio. Studio lets you convert your tasks into a BPMN-compatible output, generate a process document, auto-create an RPA bot, or generate Python code for any automation platform. In summary, Scout Task Discovery delivers quick insights at scale, identifies hotspots of opportunity, and generates actionable outputs to help you find 15% plus toil reduction potential in 48 hours at scale and with zero manual intervention.
Oh, sorry about the ads there. Right, the next demo I wanted to share with you is one that we built for Hounslow Council. They were running a digital fair, and they challenged us. They said, come up with a scenario where you could support mental health. So they had already defined one scenario. They defined this guy, Brendan, his early stage dementia, and they got some really clever ideas to help him stay in his flat. So we built on top of that. And the scenario that we pitched is that his daughter notices that her father's post has the wrong address, and he used to just trot up to the front of his flat, the common area, and collect his post. But now that he's got dementia, she can't trust that he's able to do that all the time. So she wants the post redirected. She's gone through the legal proceedings to get herself named as a guardian for her father, and the council has issued her with a device that provides a dynamic PIN number to confirm her access, so they know it's her who's coming in to control Brendan's settings records. So in the demonstration, we're going to show you 3 main things. One is we're going to start off, and the robot and the chatbot don't know anything about what's being requested. So they're going to try and determine what does this human want? What do they want from us? And then we're going to validate that this person has access, and that's going to include checking against an access right database. We're then going to provide the service, and in this instance, because it's for council, we're showing that we're going to update the change of address on a couple of council systems: Northgate for housing, Liquid Logic for social care. And then finally, we're going to confirm that service. So we've done quite a bit of work with call centers over the years, and some of the analysis that we've identified by trawling through and analyzing their data is that customers have a tendency to call back and confirm that what's been promised to them has actually been delivered, sometimes 10 minutes later, sometimes a week later. So we're trying to avoid that extra call by proactively giving them evidence that the transaction was completed. So I'm just going to start the video off here. So I'm just going to pause for a second. So this is being run on the desktop of one of my staff. On the left-hand side, just behind this More Videos box, you see that there is a terminal emulator. So this is projecting the screen of one of my staff onto his laptop. And in the top right, you see there's a window into an AWS cloud environment. You'll see some green boxes with some text next to it pop up. That's our view to show us when a robot's running. So it starts off and it asks in English and in Spanish, which language would you like to choose? We can support 40 languages out of the box for most of and then it asks what they want to do. So Brendan's daughter is typing in. You might notice that she's misspelled father and she's misspelled address. Doesn't matter. the context of the question is clear enough that the chatbot knows what she's after. So the chatbot carries on, very conversational, and asks her about her PIN device. So Brendan's daughter is going to enter 6991, and I haven't seen these before. I can tell you, over on the right, you saw the green box jiggle on inside the window. That means the robots looked it up and come back to the chatbot and said, nope, that's not found in the access control database. So the chatbot's going back and having a more human-friendly conversation with Brendan's daughter, saying, that's not right. Do you want to try again? So she says some random stuff like, I've got the device now. Chatbot knows that that's not relevant to the correspondent, so it just responds with a friendly, okay, great, let's have that PIN number. She puts in 5441, and the robot checks it and comes back and tells the chatbot that that's correct. So the chatbot will now let her proceed on. She's entering her postcode, and the robot, you see, you may have seen it move there, has looked up all the valid addresses at that postcode. We don't want her typing in a postcode. We want to pull it from clean data that we know is accurate. So we'd rather use data that we've already got in a system, or data that we may source from the post office. She scrolled through and she selected 215 Percy. And we now go back from compliance point of view, and we ask her to confirm. We're going to make this change with this data. Do you confirm? This can now be written out to our compliance record. Robots jumped ahead of me now. It's gone ahead and opened up Liquid Logic. You can see the yellow box around the fields as it clicks on them, and it's looking up Brendan's existing address. You can see it's Bath Road today, and the robot's updating the data. And of course, as the robot updates, it's cutting and pasting data which we sourced from a pure source, so there's no chance of data entry error, either from the human speaking to the chatbot or the robot putting it into the screen. So the robot's moving on now and signing into the Northgate housing system. Once again, it'll look up Brendan's record. So at least the data between the systems was consistent in this case. They were both of Bath Road. Quite often when we are on customer site, we see that the data has been updated on one system and not another, and it's completely different from one system to another. The robot's making sure that all of the systems which Brendan's data is captured in is captured correctly. So the robot's finished its work now, and the chatbot moves on and offers, would you like evidence that we've done what we said we were going to do? If you do, please give me an email address. So the chatbot's going to send that email address across to the robot. The robot's going to send screen prints across to provide evidence that the work has actually been done, so they don't have to call back. There's a screen print of Liquid Logic and screen print of Northgate. So just in summary, what I've shown you is an end-to-end customer transaction with no human interaction whatsoever. There were no changes to the IT system. So the systems, no interfaces had to be built, no data had to be changed, only had to give access rights to allow the robot to sign in as you would for any other employee. It can support 40 languages, spoken or chat or social media, and it will improve customer service while freeing staff for digital transformation. With that, I will hand over to, oh, sorry, no, I've got one more screen. Sorry. Just before going into the panel discussion, we wanted to make sure everybody's aware that we will be in contact to offer you a free consulting session if you want to explore any of these ideas or talk about problems that you have. There's no charge whatsoever for that. We also have a slew of offers that have been put together by both tmpac and our partners. Trial software, free licenses, proof of credit, concept credits, guides, etc. So there's a wealth of tools here to help you get started. So you've got a really strong, a powerful team behind you that want you to be successful with these projects, want to help you get started with your first project or with a proof of value. Karen, with that, can I hand over to you to facilitate the Q&A?
Sure, thank you. So we've had a few questions come in. So I'll be picking those out and directing them to the panel. So the first one we have for Chris from Soroco. So what's the difference between task mining and process mining, and how does it support building automation pipeline?
Great question. So I think historically task mining and process mining, they're not new concepts, but I'll start with process mining. So process mining typically relies on analyzing logs. So it's reliant on log dependent applications. So what you'll find is process mining is an incredibly valuable tool for analyzing the operations of a tool like SAP, Oracle, or any other kind of legacy tool that produces logs within your enterprise. However, process mining can look deep and wide across that application, but it cannot look wider outside of that. So the interconnectivity between teams, how they work, processes they undertake, and other tools they might use for collaboration and or communication. With task mining again is not a new concept, but the historic task mining applications that exist in the marketplace have relied on the use of OCR and computer vision, capturing very heavy numbers of screenshots and analyzing that for potential optimization. To be honest, with task mining, the historical task mining, there is a little bit of a scalability challenge because of the computing power that's required to capture lots and lots of images and analyze those. But there's also obviously a security concern around capturing private information and storing that elsewhere. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing my job properly without saying that that's really one of the motivations that Soroco took to looking between both of those applications to try and paint the most holistic picture of how work gets done in the organization across both task and process silos, all applications, all documents, all emails, providing that they are approved to be scouted. And ultimately, what is delivered is a ability for you to then go and see how everything interconnects within the organization. And where tasks are identified to be highly manual, highly repetitive in nature, they are brought to the surface and shown in a graphical fashion that will allow you to take a view on whether all, some, or part of that process would be right for automation. And I think where we've made lots of investments in terms of integrating directly to the RPA platforms in the market, it will give you the opportunity to very quickly take the observed effort that is being expended on tasks and pass that straight to your RPA teams for development or automation.
Great, thank you, Chris. I hope that answered your question. Next one is for Keith. So early on in the presentation, you mentioned about guaranteeing success of the projects that tmpac deliver. So this question is about that. So how do we ensure that the transformation projects that we deliver achieve the expected benefits?
Another great question, Karen. We sit together up front and we define very clear goals. We typically use an objective-driven approach to define what goals you want to achieve and your key performance indicators. And then we identify what problems need to be solved and the solutions that will deliver that. Once we define that set, then we will give you a guaranteed price for delivery of those solutions. So we give you a fixed price guarantee. We take responsibility for managing not just our work, but the engagement with your teams, including the change management function of that. So our delivery guarantee is very much about, you're going to have a very clear definition of what we will deliver, and it will be delivered at the price it's been guaranteed and within agreed timeframes.
Great, thank you, Keith. The next question is coming in for AWS. So Sarah, if you can take this one. What can AWS provide to assist with intelligent automation?
Hi all, thanks Karen. So first of all, thank you to tmpac for hosting today's webinar on intelligent automation. And Keith, that HSBC user case is a great example of how intelligent automation can improve efficiencies. And the algorithms that manage the organ allocation, wow, I found that quite insightful, to be honest. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So Karen, to answer the question, it becomes intelligence once we start using ML and AI services. So in AWS, we could use things like AWS Text Track or recognition. So we could use AWS Text Track for OCR and document understanding. We can use CodeStar for pipeline management, and we can use ELK Stack for reporting. Amazon Comprehend for natural language processing to uncover valuable insights and connections in text. I see that being used a lot in the educational space when transferring through lots of data pieces there. And AWS Cognito for user management. There's also a podcast that I've shared, Karen, if you don't mind sharing with the attendees afterwards. I think that'll be really really useful for those.
Sure. Yeah, we'll provide that link. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. We've just had another question come in through the chat from Donald. Thank you. So, Keith, I think this will probably be for you. So the question is, let's assume we have more than one system and the process goes through many systems to be completed. And these systems were already connected via an API. Will RPA connect via API with all of the systems interface, or just connect to one of the systems and still do the job? Does that make sense?
It does. It does. What a
Good.
great question, Donald. Sorry, can you hear me, Karen?
Yep.
Yeah. So what a great question, Donald. Donald, to be honest, I don't think I've ever seen a business process that didn't cross multiple IT systems. So there might be some simple little expense management or something, but I know what you're describing is the norm rather than the exception. And RPA can consume any number of APIs, and the better products such as UiPath have existing libraries. So if you use Salesforce, SAP, Oracle, many of Oracle's suite of tools, and about 200 other vendors, the linkages to the RPA side of the API exist already. So you just plug it in and you use it. And it's very much moving to an assembly, kind of like a Meccano's set rather than a build process. Of course, there's always going to be some local configuration and build, but it's very much use what's there already. So Robot can work with multiple APIs across multiple systems, but also if there isn't an API, it can work with the user interface. So it works with the same screens that a user uses, such as what we showed in our demo. We've also done, it can also deal with emails. So I could, if we have a chance to speak separately, I could tell you about some of the work we've done for some other customers where we have to extract Excel spreadsheets off emails, search through other emails for the password, use that password to open up the email. And if the password doesn't exist, write back to the customer or the sender to get that password. These are fairly unsecure environment where sending passwords by email was okay. And I guess the other thing that I would mention is you're not limited to emails or APIs or user interfaces. You can also read reports, Excel spreadsheets, PDFs, Word documents. So the robot, the RPA technology is your ultimate integration layer nowadays. It can integrate with almost anything digital, including social media platforms, text messages, etc., without any change to those platforms. And where it's really strong is where it pulls in some of those artificial intelligence services that Sarah was talking about. So, for example, we've used Textract on a number of projects to extract data from very complex structured PDF documents so that we can actually process it. So if you think of the RPA as the hands, your artificial intelligence as your brains. And when we say artificial intelligence, we're not talking about general artificial intelligence, the next Terminator here. We're talking about specialized services that have already been trained and built by vendors like AWS, really, really powerful widgets that you can just plug in and use very quickly. And then it can integrate with any of your IT systems. And as you rightly say, through APIs, through screens, through reports, through user interface screens, etc. Sorry, Karen, I went on a bit there. I'll
That's
shut up.
all right. Very comprehensive response. Thank you very much.
Someone got me on my soapbox.
Moving on, we have another question for AWS. So Andrew, this one's for you. So Andrew, what service and or technology have you recently used for intelligent automation? And what was that? Why did you do that?
Thanks, Karen. That's a great question. I can actually talk about briefly a use case that touches on a lot of different intelligent automation services. But over on the Amazon.com side, we have a lot of high volume processes that deal with documents that could be coming from external parties, and it always comes to my surprise, and probably for many of you, how many things are still sent in the mail and come out as scanned documents. So we've implemented some use cases recently that integrate RPA UiPath for some of the for the document collection, integrate with AWS's TextRact service, which is a OCR service to do the conversion from the scanned image to text and key value pairs. And actually, we've made use of some other capabilities within UiPath's tool that are more workflow. Their tool called Action Center is used for sort of human in the loop workflow orchestration between your people and your robots that can sort of pass non-standard documents for a human review. And we've been able to support that use case and some of the storage of documents and data using other AWS services like our simple storage service, which is AWS's S3 buckets, which sort of sit behind our Action Center and really help us retain the documents and data needed for that end-to-end workflow. So use cases like this really show the breadth of technologies and services between AWS and other intelligent automation providers to solve some of those more complex end-to-end use cases.
Great, thank you very much. I hope that answered your question out there. We have another question for Soroco. So Chris, the task mining demo captured a lot of detail, but how would one make use of that detail and make it work?
So it's quite a difficult kind of concept to just bring to life with words. But as you can imagine, we are deploying at a desktop agent level the desktop sensors that are observing every action that an end user is taking to perform their daily duties. We remove from that any information that needs to be redacted and or systems that we are not scouting. But what you will then be presented with is a prioritized list of automation opportunities and or transformation opportunities. The really interesting thing is, Soroco isn't a business that drives realization outcomes. It delivers the identification of those outcomes so that you can apply the right tools with which to then go and service those opportunities. So Andrew, Sarah bring up some fantastic examples which bring back my time at UiPath to bear in terms of where using OCR and document ingestion as one of the ideas to improve and accelerate the ingestion of heavily automatable processes that start with documents. That's something that task mining will very quickly identify and bring to the top of the tree for you to then identify. On top of that, quite simply, we don't just look at everything being a leap straight through into automation. Everything that you see within the way that an employee works every day must be automatable. That's not the case. As we know, there are some processes that simply, automation is not the right answer for. But what we will look at is how we can help educate you on where user training, process simplification might be another lever that you might want to pull on. And that's why we feel like a level of agnosticism to the recommendations we make actually help you make sense of the data that's rendered. But quite simply, you know, the way in which we pull that data together is quite simply the menu, the detail that's required, for which you can then take the decisions of how to realize that benefit. But the last thing I'd say is automating a bad process is still a bad process. So one of the great things that we'll look at is giving you the information to identify where the return on investment may come from automation before you even deploy a single bot or invest a single hour's worth of work. So hopefully that answers your question with the background music still blaring.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. We've still got a couple more questions in the Q&A bucket. So another one for Keith. When an intelligent automation solution encounters unexpected data or exceptions, how does it manage those?
Yeah, we get asked this a lot, actually. I can think back to a number of customer presentations where this has been asked. It seems quite confusing and daunting to someone who's never worked with RPA, but RPA works seamlessly with your staff. The way RPA works is you define the workflows that'll actually be automated, and where it runs across something that it can't deal with, it'll hand over to your staff. So the handover to staff is through however your staff receive work today. So that could be an email that's sent through. That could be data populated into a spreadsheet and sent attached to an email. It could be going into a workflow system and assigning a task to your staff. If you recall that, you know, the robot can work with any of your systems and sign into any of your systems and act like a human. Whatever you would do if you were a junior employee and didn't know what to do to ask for help, that's what the robot can do. But we typically take it a step further. The robot, what we tend to do is to agree with our customers whether they want every transaction that the robot can't deal with handed over individually, or to batch those up. And if we batch those up, we quite often will store those in a spreadsheet so that and clarify and include all the data in there and make it very clear to the person we're handing off to what decisions expected out of them. And where it's possible, allow them to update the spreadsheet, mail it back to the robot, and then the robot will pick up those transactions and complete the work. Because what we're trying to do here is we're trying to free people from mundane, repetitive work. If the robot, there was one data field out of 500 that it was updating from the source data that had an inaccurate value, we want somebody to go investigate that inaccuracy, maybe change the reference data underneath, maybe change the value that's been entered because somebody misunderstood, and then let the robot go back and do all the heavy lifting again. I guess the final thing that I would add on that is we've developed our own software development toolkit for robots. So it's whenever we run a project and we start with a template that's got most of the code built already. And that software development toolkit includes self-healing. So our robots automatically register any faults onto our service desk. So we usually know if the robot runs across something that's unexpected, you know, like the machine goes down, the IT system runs out of space, and it won't add any additional records, or it falls over. The kind of things that are operational failures are completely unexpected. We trap those. Our robot records those onto our service desk, and we're usually fixing them and doing the diagnostics before the people who before our customers are even aware of that.
Great, thank you. And the final question we have today is for everybody. So Keith, I'll direct it to you, but please, any of the other panelists are welcome to comment. So what advice would you give on how to convince decision makers to take a more holistic approach to transformation efforts and not just focus on technology?
Well, I'll start and then hand over to the others. I'm sure that everybody has a lot to say about this. Excuse me. The first thing I do is I'd want to understand what it is they want to achieve. So step away from the shiny new toy that you might have read about in an airplane magazine, or another exec might have told you about. What do you want to achieve? What's your objective? How are you going to measure success? What are the success criteria and the key performance indicators that we're going to use to determine whether this transformation is successful or not successful? I would then decompose that down into, in order to achieve those critical success factors, in order to deliver those key performance indicators and those success criteria, what changes need to happen in the organization. And you can usually identify those by going around and speaking to the staff and finding out what's stopping them from achieving it today. They know where the problems are. They know where a lot of the pain is. I would then supplement that with some voice of the customer interviews. So I would speak to the customers of the organization, external if possible. If that's not possible, then the internal customers, and find out what's frustrating them and what's causing them to not buy more service, give a higher net promoter score, raise what's causing them to raise complaints, understand from their perspective what's important. And we've got some great stories with customers who told us about spending millions of pounds on a program and then finding out it wasn't what their customer wanted at all. They completely misunderstood. So once I defined some key performance indicators and a way of measuring success, and I understood what changes need to be delivered to deliver that success, then I would go about defining the solutions to deliver those changes. Some of those, as Chris pointed out earlier, may just be training. It might be there's inconsistency in the way people work. Some of it may be improvement of the process with no change to technology whatsoever. Quite often it does involve technology because those are our control systems in all modern businesses. But in many organizations I've worked with, I've walked around and reviewed transformation programs that are underway and discovered that they're far too narrow in scope. They're not going to deliver service for all regions, all products, all customer types. So it's very, very important to understand what you need to achieve to ensure that even if you do deliver technology projects, they're going to achieve that for the full set of customers that you want to benefit.
Great, thank you, Keith. And we have just 2 minutes left. So AWS or Soroco, would you like to comment?
Got a very good answer, which is, and I challenge those that are taking investments in intelligent automation and or any technology, including that of AWS, to senior decision makers within their business, and ask yourself, is this or is what we're trying to achieve aligning to the goals of business and the goals of that individual? Long gone are the days where you could sell technology and internally or externally from a PowerPoint presentation with hopes and dreams. Find the things that will actually deliver on board level objectives, cost takeout, reduction in effort, improve CSAT, whatever it may be. Spend money like drunken sailors on attaching to those value plays, and know that full well if you're going on a vanity project to trial stuff that doesn't have an end goal with huge value at the end of it, then I would agree that it gets pushed back by senior decision makers.
Great, thank you very much. Any last comments? Great. Okay, well, thank you very much to the panelists. Thank you very much for those that have attended. We hope that you found it useful. And Paul Hunt, who's our commercial manager, will be in touch with you all over the coming days to follow up and hopefully book in with your consultancy. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.